Thank you, Tobias. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I know you're incredibly busy at this time. Just let's get something right out of the way. How's your day going so far?
You know, I'll survive. I will survive. Oh, it's been a rough period of time now, not just with the music, but life in general has its ups and downs, and a lot of stuff that's been really stressful, but also very fruitful. So I shouldn't complain.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. And you talk about, I mean, obviously life has been very stressful. I have to ask you then, like we do everyone at these stages, last 18 months or so, how have you been holding up, pandemic-wise, personally?
Well, here in Sweden, we didn't have the worst pandemic experience in the world, to be honest and fair. But of course, you have to cancel a lot of fun stuff, not just the music stuff, but hanging out with people and all that kind of shit. So, but on the other hand, I got to spend much more time at home, with my family and daughter, and so that's on the good side of things. So it's not a problem really, and of course we could focus on this album also 100%. So yeah.
I mean, you're taking the best positives out of a very negative situation, regardless if you're the smallest to the biggest band or whatever country you're in, everyone's been affected. So, in regards to Wormwood then, I mean, have you guys coped as well as you possibly could, considering, I mean, being in Sweden, you say it wasn't quite the same as it was in other countries?
Yeah, but we already decided to before the pandemic that we was gonna do this album, and we had the concept already. So we were just waiting for our time to get in the studio and rehearsed all the songs. So we were ready for it, and then everything happened, and yeah, and the rest is history.
So you would plan to always take time off, or it just turned out to be lucky?
It turned out to be lucky in that sense, but we had already booked the studio, months earlier.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big thing for us
What kind of
as
made
a
you
band.
just? Yeah. What kind of made you decide you were going to go into the studio so quickly? Because like at that point, Arkivet had only been out a year, so it was quite quick.
Yeah, I don't want to lie, but I think it was when Natarvet was done and released. I already started a little with the new songs, because when the Natarvet songs was finished and recorded, it took a lot of half a year or something for it to be released. So
Yeah.
the creativity came back during that period of time, and so it was just a natural uh, steps.
It's awesome when it works out that way, and that you don't have to force it, and it just comes so naturally. Did you said it this earlier, that the concept was there? Was that the kind of first thing that came to mind?
Yeah, but Natarvet is a concept album, more or less, about the hardships in Scandinavia during the late 1800s. And this one is also kind of a concept album, but it's set in 2023. So it's more modern in that kind of way. We wanted to do something that was talking about, all the negative sides of humanity, humanity from a big perspective. We didn't want to make this cinematic apocalyptic Mad Max-ish space laser sword hero metal thing. We wanted to do, something about the everyday man and woman in a modern society that are facing catastrophes made by ourselves, basically. So about ordinary, regular people, No heroes in our apocalypse. It's just people like you and me. Well, maybe you're a hero in some kind of way, but yeah.
So that, that idea, the old inability to take care of Earth and that aspect, it seems like just on the surface that it's been inspired by kind of what you see around you right now. Is that the case?
Yes and no. I think last 10 years has been a big build up for these kinds of events that are all around the world as we speak, and has been during the summer, with all the fires and floods and of course pandemic and political instability and riots in the streets and you name it. I think subconsciously this album might have been some kind of timestamp or something like that. Without choosing to do it, it just came. But I think, of course, we're influenced by reality.
It's incredible that you talk about a timestamp because, I mean, it's all the events, but like something specific. We released the album, and then there was the news, at least in our country, of what had gone on in New York with the flash floods and stuff like that, and it almost seemed, to say, quite prophetic in that sense.
Yeah, and also I would like to think that in the Western world, pretty rich countries, we've been safe for hundreds of years, more or less. I think a lot of people in the Western world nowadays can relate somehow to these events in our music because we can already, taste the catastrophe in the far distant. If you get what I'm saying here.
Of course. What's interesting as well, because the climate change and all that, it's a hot topic to discuss. And while, of course, as you said, that's not completely what the album is based around. Is it fair to say that though this isn't Wormwood being political or standing on a soapbox, but rather you guys continuing to speak in your own unique way?
Spot on. I would say I want to be very clear that we don't take any side. We don't want our listeners to join any team, or any kind of belief system. I would say if you just read the news and then you spice it up a little, it's there, this is not politics. Climate change isn't politics. It's just science and reality. I think all the political movements that are dealing with this kind of topics, either if they're pro or think it's lies or whatever they think about it, I think it's just bullshit, because all these bad things that people are doing to our only home shouldn't be politics, because if we don't have anywhere to live, nothing else matters,
Absolutely, and it should be noted as well, at its core, ultimately, however you're expressing yourself, Arkivet is still a heavy metal album. It's still about the music. It's still about that expression.
Yes, that was what I was gonna say. We can't forget that this is just a fucking rock and roll album made by some dudes in Sweden. We're not scientists. We're not anything else than rock musicians. So yeah.
I love that. Excellent, excellent. It's been out for about a week and a half now. How have you found the reception? Have you been paying much attention to fan feedback and the general love it's getting?
It's been great. We entered the official Swedish charts, number one for in two categories, physical album and vinyl. Number two in rock metal, and number 10 in all genres, digital and physical.
Incredible.
So our strong side has always been in the physical side of things. Also we collect streams, but we're not close to the stream giants. The rock and metal audience is much more loyal also, so they will buy your stuff. They don't stream from Spotify Friday night. They want to have this vinyl. But also we got a lot of attention from the press, magazines and stuff like this. Fans from all over the world basically. So it was with our Not Arvet album where it started. When we released it, people started to talk about Wormwood online, and the monster grew from that. So in the promotion period for this album, I think we had the fan base that was going to buy the record even if they didn't hear it. We sold a lot, what do you call it, pre-orders.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
How much do you think comes from as well? Like obviously the Swedish metal scene is famous, but obviously in one specific style and often what people associate with the country. You're doing a different aspect of that. Do you think people's interest comes automatically because it's Swedish metal and that's definitely worth checking out?
I think there is some truth in that, especially outside of Scandinavia. Swedish metal is a sign of some kind of quality, maybe.
Yeah.
But here in the Scandinavian countries, people are kind of home blind. Is that a word in English, or am I Swedish English it?
I love it. I completely get what you mean by it.
Yeah. In the Swedish metal scene, when you are out playing in the clubs and stuff, everybody in the audience is also in a metal band. So it's like they stand like this, crossing their arms and just pointing out the fails. Been there, done that. Oh, listen to that guitar sound, blah blah blah. But as soon as you get out of Scandinavian countries, especially Sweden, Norway, and Finland, people will be much more dedicated and celebrate your music instead. So, I think it's a little both.
Little bit of both. Well, your aspect of storytelling and how you tie Swedish history, your roots, lore, the cosmos, more into that, you're showing a different side to the country than many a metal scene are used to. How important is it for you to tell these tales and give listeners a different take on Swedish metal?
I think it's pretty important. We as a band, when we sing about our roots or our history, we may not pick out the most famous parts. A lot of bands, they have the old Viking stories and the heroes, We want to focus on more everyday life situations, and yeah, of course, the darkness that comes with it, the Scandinavian melancholy, the hardship of living in harsh conditions and still has to, survive and thrive. Um, there's a lot of poetic qualities in that, I would say. It has so much soul, and also all the art forms from Scandinavia since way back in the days has always had a tear in it. It's the Scandinavian melancholy that we want to capture and put it out in our way, I would say. I'm a little allergic to, well, I can say I'm allergic to it in that way, but I would never be in a band where we did all the cliches. Of course, I can't say it's bad to sing about all these cool Viking warriors and whatnot, but it's so watered out, it's so thin. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. It's so much Hollywood.
Yeah. I think the way you describe that, it's so enlightening, because a lot of people, me included, and I think a lot of people, while you can enjoy, as you say, your fist pumping, hero based, Hollywood style take on that, what a lot of the time you want to feel something. And your melancholic, mood affecting, and emotive work comes under a cloud of misery, but beautiful misery. And that's really important. And I have to ask, does that take a toll on you guys mentally as you're creating this kind of work?
I would say it's rather the opposite. It's relieving.
Yeah.
I feel a relief by letting out maybe feelings that are already in there. It's not like I'm collecting feelings and stuffing it in. It's more I open the door and here it is. With that said, I'm not a clinical depressed person. I like to joke. I like to have fun. But when it comes to describe, feelings and thoughts, the natural way to express it, at least for me, it's by being melancholic, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And I suppose the opposite side to that has to be then, well, for someone who had never heard your music before and was to play Arkivet and think, oh my God, this is so enveloping misery. What makes Wormwood as a unit happy?
Fame and fortune and money and
Glory.
beer. Well, we're 5 individuals. I think we have different ways to describe happiness, as everybody, big and small. Well, I can just throw out cliches here now. To be healthy, to be economical, stable, and have friends, and being able to play music. Well, I guess that's fine for me.
Yeah. But it's still incredibly inspiring, because it's what people want to hear. It's that being able to relate to a musician that you might love and admire, and basically hear, hey, you're a normal dude who's got normal loves and hates.
Yeah, I got a family and I got a daytime job, which I hate. So I guess, yeah, pure happiness for me would to keep my family healthy and to be able to play rock and roll for a living for the rest of my life. Yeah, and also have a few beers now and then.
Occasionally, absolutely. I hope it works out that way. Last thing then, Tobias, what's the plan going forward now? I know this is really difficult because the world is in still such a mess. So touring plans and all of that are just up in the air. But what are you kind of hoping, I guess, to get going?
Well, to be realistic, I first step is to actually play the gigs that are booked for December, and they are here in Sweden. I don't think we could go outside of Sweden until maybe spring. I don't know. We have a few dates booked, at least. So I hope. I hope 2022 will be, you know, a normal gig year with normal festivals and everything. We'll see. I'm not a scientist or a politician or anything. I'm a rock and roll dude, man. That's everything. All the things I am.
Fantastic. That is the perfect place to close this interview down there. Tobias, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?